I'm making more money now than I ever have before, and I'm working the least number of hours than I ever have before. And that's because to me, success isn't necessarily what's in my bank account, although that is obviously an important part of business. For me, my definition of success was being able to show up for my kids every single day and still be able to pursue my passions. It was being able to work the least amount of hours and make the most amount of money, which I am doing.
Hello, and welcome back to Mama What's Next. It's Melanie here, and today I am sharing the interview with Brooke Harmer. Brooke is the founder of the Well Nourished Mama podcast and business, where she supports pregnant and postpartum women through nutrition and lifestyle guidance. She's a cookbook author, a podcast host, and a mom of 3. And Brooke has actually doubled her annual revenue year over year for the last 3 years while working less than 15 hours a week. So after I was recently a guest on Brooke's podcast, I thought she has so much to share that I need to get her to come to Mama What's Next and talk to us about how she built a business with 3 little teeny tiny children and how she's actually built this really thriving company now. And what I really loved about it was that she didn't build her life around her business. She built the business around her life. We are diving into what it really takes to become a mom entrepreneur and why following your passion actually really matters, and how to define success on your own terms as a mom. Brooke also shares some really practical tips about automation in business, about hiring, and why marketing yourself feels so very different than marketing for someone else. So grab your coffee and let's jump in. Welcome to Mama What's Next, a podcast for all the amazing women navigating the wonderful challenges of exploring a new version of yourself after becoming a mom. I'm your host, Melly, and together with my incredible guests, I'm here to help you explore who you are now and help guide you to your true path, one that feels authentic and fulfilling at the same time. Motherhood changes everything, yes. It's beautiful, transformative, and sometimes it pulls us away from the woman we were. Together we dive into career change stories and how to live a life that truly reflects who we are without guilt and with the courage to embrace your journey. So get yourself a coffee, steal a moment for yourself, and let's explore this next chapter of your life. I am super happy that you're here. Welcome. Hello, Brooke. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so excited to have you on the podcast after we've shared already a conversation on your podcast, and that's how we met before. I'm so excited to hear and learn more about your journey and how you're supporting mothers, especially. I'm always excited to share, exciting journeys, especially supporting moms in that space of, becoming, like when we are just starting our motherhood journey, we're going through this whole rebirth, everything is changing. And I know you've had quite a journey as well yourself. Your podcast and your business is called the Well Nourished Mama. And I would love for you to share a little bit about your journey, how you even got to this point and how you got to launch your business and what your journey was like. If that was like just a given that you stumbled into that, or, just share a little bit about your story and how you got to where you are now. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yes, I'd love to. Thank you for having me. And for anyone listening, if you hear any weird noises in the background, that's my baby joining us today. So I'll do my best to try and entertain him. So I had grown up always wanting to have a career. And I grew up in a very traditional household where it was expected that I go to college and I get a degree, but that eventually I would just kind of like stop everything and be a mom. My parents really valued a college education for like the purpose of having an education, but they didn't believe that there was really a place for me to do anything with it other than like be more educated, I guess. So I was always kind of at war with the values that I grew up with, and the desires that I had. And so when I went to college, I was like, well, I want to study what I like, and I want to study something that I could have a career in. And right now, I want to have a career, but I also want to be a mom. And society is telling me that that's not possible. And my parents are telling me that I can't do that. And so I was kind of like at war with myself for a really long time, trying to figure out if it was reasonable for me to want something other than just being a mom. Not that just being a mom is bad. That's just not what I envisioned for my life. And then halfway through college, that's when the pandemic hit. It was actually like the end of my sophomore year before I was supposed to apply to this really prestigious business school. And so it was kind of this perfect opportunity where it was like, okay, now that everything is shut down and school looks totally different, now is kind of the perfect time to pull out if I really, really want to. And my husband and I talked about it and we prayed about it. And we felt like it was better for me to actually just drop out of college and do my own thing rather than pursue a degree, because we felt like it was time to start our family. And I also had this idea of what I was going to do for my own business. And so I ended up starting out as a food blogger and a food photographer. And I did that for about 2 years until after my first baby was born. And then I kind of pivoted into perinatal nutrition. So not just like, oh, these recipes are yummy because they're healthy. It was now, hey, these recipes support you during pregnancy. These recipes support you during postpartum and lactation. And so I kind of pivoted that way. And, you know, like I said, my baby's with me today. Here we are 5 years later. Yes, you're here with us. Here we are 5 years later. And I have doubled my annual revenue year over year for the last 3 years. I work less than 15 hours a week. I'm a full-time stay-at-home mom. I'm doing exactly what I want to do. And I'm having like all of my dreams come true with my career. And I'm still able to do it while being a mom of 3 under 4. So I guess that's kind of the synopsis of how I stumbled into it, but also how I made it work with all of the values that were important to me.
Yeah. Well, you also said you prayed on it when you were speaking with your husband. So was that like in what kind of way did you speak to God about your desires, your dreams, your wishes? Like what was it really that was in your heart that you wanted for yourself?
For me personally, when I am praying for inspiration, I have found that it's much easier to understand God when you kind of come to a conclusion first and then you ask if that's the right choice rather than saying, what choice should I make? If that makes sense. It's not that God can't tell us exactly what to do, but I've found that most of the time, God wants us to be agents unto ourselves. He wants us to research it out and decide what we think is best for us and also what we're passionate about, what feels important to us. And then he also wants to be involved by saying, yes, this is a great choice and I'm going to help you. Or, let's keep thinking, you know? So when we were trying to decide what was going to be best for our family, we had lots of different iterations of kind of like the same end goal. And it was kind of figuring out what steps were going to get us there. And what we ultimately decided was, okay, Brooke wants a career, but she also wants to be a mom. And I'm way too stubborn to work for somebody else anyway. And so being an entrepreneur was kind of perfect. And so we decided, okay, I think what we're going to do is Brooke is going to start her own business. And then at the same time, we're also going to try and start our family. And when we came to that decision and we prayed about it, we both felt peace, we both felt calm, and we felt confident in moving forward. And things kind of started to fall into place as we moved forward with that decision. And so, yeah, it was really helpful for us to kind of do our own research first and come to a conclusion before, not before bringing God into the picture, but like, doing most of the work ourselves and then seeing what he thought about all of that.
Mm-hmm. I love how you explain that, and I'm always very curious because I went onto this whole journey of speaking, having these conversations very late in life. So I'm always curious to hear like the way people approach these kinds of conversations. And obviously, from what you've just shared, it feels to me as if you first should find your alignment with your own passions, because he's essentially asking you to follow the path that lights you up the most. That's what I heard from you explaining it to me now. It's like,
Yes.
follow your path, follow the path that lights you up the most, that you're passionate about. And that's what you said, right? And then he will give you inclinations or a concrete answer if that's.
Yeah, because I believe that he has our best interest at heart. And he also respects our ability to make choices. And so it's trying to find that balance between the two of, okay, it's important for me to make my choice based on the goals that we have, our financial situation, my passions, all those things. And then also say, hey, like, is this a good path to pursue? And because he has my best interest at heart, if I've done my best with my knowledge and my choices, and he comes back to the table and he says, you know what? Let's keep trying. Let's keep thinking. Then I'm like, okay, let's keep thinking. And then I can kind of go find another way, right? So yeah, that's how God fits into all of it.
Yes. Thank you for sharing that. I'm so curious because we've talked about this before, and you said you'd be happy to share a little bit more about your business journey, because obviously I'm speaking to a lot of mums that are sort of in between chapters. They're in transition and they're thinking of either transitioning out of the corporate space or building like a second leg to stand on, which is quite common these days with mothers, especially because we need that flexibility, and sometimes for a certain time we're experimenting, seeing what works, right? And oftentimes, women go into like maybe just to have like a part-time role, and on the side then they start building their side business, potentially building it into a full-time gig later on, right? So I'd be really interested to hear, how did you, like, obviously you have your specialty within, educating women on their health journey, like nourishment, like exactly what you explained before. How did you build your audience? How were you so set? Like you said, you were a food blogger. So food is clearly something that you're passionate about anyway, right? So is that something you would definitely recommend to people, like follow that path? Like you need to find the one thing, because there are voices that say, people always say, follow your passion, but it's actually not really, it doesn't really make sense. You should look for what the market needs. So did you analyze that properly before and said, this is exactly what makes sense also for me, for the market? And then how did you start building your audience? Like, did you, grow organically? Did you use social media? You obviously have a great podcast that educates women. So share away.
Oh my goodness. It has been such a journey. I started my career having absolutely no idea what I was doing. I had never tried to market or sell anything before. I was new to SEO and like the whole Google side of things. I had only ever consumed social media, so it was totally different to be a creator versus a consumer. And so it took me about 2.5, 3 years to actually like really make any money. I would make like a little bit here and there, but then I would just keep it in the business. I would reinvest it. And basically, I either finished the year with like net $500 or like net zero, or maybe even the negative sometimes if I had to invest a little bit more in something. And so it took me a couple years to actually figure out how to make money. But I think another reason was because I didn't quite know what I wanted to do, if that makes sense. I knew I wanted to be a food blogger, but I didn't really know what that meant. And so I was kind of just grinding my gears, and I'm like, okay, I don't really like this, but I said this is what I wanted to do. So it just kind of took me a while to figure out, what am I passionate about? What does that look like? And then how do I monetize that? And when I made the pivot to maternal nutrition and what I do now, that's when I really started to see the growth, because I really niched down. And I was also a lot more passionate about this than I was about just food blogging in general. So that really helped. But I would say the biggest thing for any of the mamas listening that are considering starting their own business or whatever, the biggest thing I would say is understanding what your definition of success is before you start. I thought that success was the number of commas in my bank account or the number of zeros in my bank account. And so when I wasn't making money, I thought, okay, well, I need to work more hours. That's why I'm not making money. And I would work more hours and nothing would change. And, I'm making more money now than I ever have before. And I'm working the least number of hours than I ever have before. And that's because to me, success isn't necessarily what's in my bank account, although that is obviously an important part of business. For me, my definition of success was being able to show up for my kids every single day and still be able to pursue my passions. It was being able to work the least amount of hours and make the most amount of money, which I am doing. And it's also having the flexibility that I want. I hate 9-to-5s because it doesn't matter if you're sick. It doesn't matter if you're tired. It doesn't matter if you're creative or like burnt out. You still have to show up and work the same number of hours every day. And that drives me nuts. So for me, another really big part was the flexibility of, do I want to work at 10 a.m.? Uh-oh, where's Dad? I know, buddy. It was, do I want to work at 10 a.m.? We've got a really busy today. We've got doctor's appointments and all these other things. So I'm just going to work later. And then other days it's, okay, I have this creative idea and I have a lot of energy to put into it. I want to try and get it done here instead of later. And just being able to do whatever I want, whenever I want was really important to me. And if that means that I make less money, less consistently than if I had a 9-to-5, that doesn't bother me, because what matters more is the flexibility. So I would say the biggest thing that I've learned and that really helps shift my mindset about being a successful business owner, especially as a mom, was realizing what my definition of success was, and then building my business around that, and building my business around my life rather than building my life around my business, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes total sense. I think I've just had another conversation recently with someone from Germany, like a coach that works with women building businesses. And she said women just build businesses completely differently. And especially when we become mothers, it's the priorities that shift, right? Priorities shift so much when you become a mom with regards to career. That just, I think makes a huge difference and confirms what you said just now.
And I will say, I also have the luxury of not having to be the primary breadwinner. So I think that also changes how I built my business and how I show up. If I had the expectation from my family and my husband that I was the primary breadwinner, everything would be totally different, right? So if you're listening and you're like, okay, well, that doesn't really work for me because if I don't make money, then we don't eat. Then, maybe the way your business looks might not be the same, but the principle of building your business around your life and setting your values at the beginning still applies. I just wanted to make sure we knew that I'm not the primary breadwinner, because that's also a factor.
Well, yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for clarifying that, because often like we get this wrong impression when we see like people from the outside and their successful lives and, how they're kind of managing everything, but we don't see what's the setup behind it, and often, you might have like a solo parent and they don't really have the same kind of setup and support net, and they do need to make different choices to build their dreams, essentially, right? Does that mean for you, like, for example, when you say building your business differently as well, creating it around a lot of automations, like that you kind of go, okay, I'm trying to build it in a way that self-automates. Is that something you would recommend for moms to do?
I think that is a fantastic... Oh, that's my hair. I feel like that is a fantastic recommendation, no matter if you have to be the primary breadwinner or not. Just because there's so many mundane things that we have to do as business owners that we don't realize we have to do until we do it. And we're like, wait, this is not why I started my business. I didn't start my business to write emails and do payroll and all of these things, but it's a part of being a business owner. And so the more you can automate, the more time you have to do what actually lights you up, like the reason you started your business in the first place. So for me, that is using email workflows. So if I can do all the hard work up front to create a freebie and then create an email workflow that nurtures into an upsell, then that takes care of the bulk of my selling. I just have to sell the freebie, and then I've written all the content and all the emails that sell the upsell, but I don't have to do it individually for every single person every single day. I just do it once, I set it, and once they're in the funnel, they're in the funnel. So that's a really huge one. Another one I would say is the DM automation on social media. So, hey, comment links and I will send you... You're being very loud. Comment links and I will send you, all the things that I talked about in this video. And that way it automatically sets everything up for you. And so you don't have to personally respond to every single DM. And then you can also set it up as kind of a funnel to do some selling for you later. So finding any way you can to automate your business. And that could also look like, okay, on Mondays, I do this. And on Tuesdays, I do this. Because if you know exactly what you're going to do on that day, it makes it a lot easier to be efficient. So for me, I used to have my podcast calendar open Monday through Saturday. And there were obviously like windows of time that you could sign up, but you could choose from any of those 6 days. And I realized after about, unfortunately, 6 months of doing that it was making it so difficult for me to get in the headspace to do anything else, because I'm like, okay, do I have an interview today? Do I have an interview tomorrow? And it was never consistent. And so I quote automated it by saying, okay, I will only do podcast interviews on Tuesday and Thursday. And so then if it's Wednesday, I don't even have to think about my podcast. I can use my creative energy elsewhere, because I know, except for today. Today's Wednesday. We're recording on a Wednesday. But I just know, okay, today's Wednesday. It's not a podcast day. So that means that I can work on XYZ or whatever. So I would even say that that's an automation, like setting up systems, workflows, routines, rhythms, things that take decision-making out of the process for you. So that you are just streamlined, you're a well-oiled machine, and it frees up all this mental load of what do I need to do? When do I need to do it? How am I going to do it? If you can just do that in as many places as possible, it will make being a successful business owner so much easier.
Mm-hmm. He's our co-host today. Yeah,
He's so loud. I'm so sorry.
No, that's
He's
fine.
usually pretty good, but
Co-hosting.
today he has a voice and he wants to join the conversation.
That's totally fine. We're very happy to have him.
You're just lucky it's not my toddlers. My toddlers are in the other room watching Bluey. So
it's like my daughter's out too. Like she has some distraction, and I have to go and get her.
Yep.
Can I ask, like, have you managed to do this all yourself, or do you have like a virtual assistant that's helping you? Is there any kind of other setup that you would recommend for women starting out, obviously? Because I hear this quite often from business coaches, they say, the first thing you have to get is a virtual assistant. And I'm wondering if that's something you've used. And also with regards to social media, so many women, they struggle to get into the habit of like promoting themselves, like putting themselves out there. Is that something that you've struggled with, talking about yourself and your own business? And I'm asking from a place of, I've worked in marketing and I've always worked for other businesses. And I find that very much, I find it very different to when you have to promote your own business. And I'm great going out there promoting other things, other businesses, other services, and like taking a big microphone. And I find it is quite a different thing when you do it for yourself, to be very bold in your approach.
Yes. Oh my gosh, there's so much to unpack there. So with hiring, I don't have a virtual assistant, but I do have 3 people that work for me. They're just contractors. They're not employees. I would say for me personally, I would not be where I am today if I hadn't hired people. I think it takes money to make money. And if you can identify very, very quickly what you're either not good at or you don't have the capacity to do consistently and do well, then those should be the areas that you hire out. So if answering your emails and doing like a lot of that clerical work isn't a big deal for you, then you don't need a virtual assistant. Or if you're really small and you're just starting out, you probably don't have the volume to actually have enough work for a virtual assistant. So I wouldn't even say that a virtual assistant has to be your first hire. I think your first hire should be an area where you either need help ASAP because you're not the expert or you don't have the time, or it's something you really, really, really don't like and you don't like it enough that it's actually keeping you from showing up in your business. So for me, I DIY'd most of my stuff, but I hired out a website designer to at least get like a template going. And then I figured out how to edit and modify and update as I went along. But like the bulk of the creation process was somebody else, because I was like, I could figure it out if I really wanted to, but I know the time that's involved in that. And I'm choosing that the money is worth getting my time back. Right. So I've kind of done that like one off here and there. My brother is actually my tech producer for my podcast. So he's the one that edits all of my episodes, all of my ads, all of my intros, puts everything together, publishes it. He does all the tech stuff. I knew when I was starting my podcast that side of it would be the sole reason that I would never be consistent or successful with my podcast. And I had no desire to do it either. I wanted nothing to do with the editing software, any of that stuff. And so I was like, I'm going to hire somebody before I launch my podcast. And that's just going to be something that I will always pay for. And I have to budget for that. I also recently hired somebody to do Pinterest for me. Not because I can't do it, but because I don't want to, and I currently don't have the time to. So yeah, to sum it all up, identify the areas that you either hate, like absolutely hate, or the areas that you are just not an expert in. And those are the places that I would start for hiring. As for marketing yourself, it takes a lot of work to get comfortable with doing that, but not just like being good at it. I would say more in the sense of like having really thick skin. Because when you're marketing for somebody else, if you don't make sales, you're just sad that you don't make sales because then maybe your paycheck is a little bit smaller. But if you're marketing something that you've created, something that's your own brainchild, and you don't make sales, you take it personally. Even like if you're not trying to at all, you take it personally and you're like, what's wrong with me? Do I have bad ideas? Am I a fraud? Am I scamming people? Like you have to have this mindset of, I believe in what I'm doing so much that no matter how many sales I do or don't make, I still know that what I'm doing is good and that it's worth it. And I'm going to keep trying.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. That's amazing encouragement. I also wanted to ask you, obviously you're working with mamas and there's lots of mamas listening. Maybe some are in a space where they could use your support. How do you support women? Is it through, your courses? Do you have a live program? Do you also do one-on-one support? Like what is your sort of current offering, or do you have any special things that are coming up? And the last question would be like, what's coming next for you? Is there anything that you've planned in the near future that you can share?
Yes. So I work with pregnant and postpartum women. We focus on nutrition primarily, but also your lifestyle habits and just helping you actually like being a mom. One of the reasons I got into this space is because I was told that being a mom meant being exhausted, overstimulated, burnt out, and just like empty. Like you have no other purpose other than to wipe butts and make quesadillas for dinner. And I didn't like that narrative. And then I realized that a lot of that has to do with us not taking care of ourselves. And so my passion is helping moms see that, yeah, wiping butts every day, not super fun. And yes, we're tired because it's a lot of work taking care of little human beings. But we can show up and not be as overstimulated or burnt out if we're eating 3 meals a day. And if we're not drinking caffeine 3 times a day and all those other things. So that's what I do. My 2 best-selling cookbooks are where a lot of people find me first. I have a postpartum recovery cookbook that takes you through the first 6 weeks after you have a baby. And then my lactation cookbook helps you support your milk supply holistically. So those are my 2 like original offers that people know me for. I just recently launched a membership that I would compare to like the pregnancy app that you probably downloaded on your phone. So the pregnancy app where you put in your due date and it says, oh my gosh, you're 19 weeks, baby is the size of a banana and their eyes can see light and like all these other things. And it says, oh, by the way, if you have a headache, too bad, go take a nap or something, right? Mm-hmm. So my membership basically is like that concept where it's week by week, trimester by trimester, but just for moms. So we're not talking about baby. We're talking about your body, your symptoms. We're talking about how to work with your provider to get the best health care that you need, how to prepare for birth and postpartum. And then it doesn't just stop with pregnancy like all the other apps. It takes you through into the first 12 months postpartum and holds your hand through that phase of life as well. And the exciting news for Mama What's Next is that membership will actually be a mobile app in 2026. Wow. So right now, my membership is on my website, and I'm working with a developer to turn it into a native mobile app that you'll find in the App Store. So that's really exciting.
Wow, that's exciting news. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's wonderful. Yes, I'm sure we can send you some women listening, like someone that's in this space that needs your support. I'm so grateful that you had time to share some insights about your journey today. Thank you so much, Brooke, for your time today. I really enjoyed it and I've learned a lot, and I'm sure everybody's enjoyed listening to that. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. Yes. And if you want to connect, if you're in that phase of motherhood or you just want to talk business. I don't get to do that very often, but I love talking business. So
Yes.
I'd love to connect in any way that we can.
Thank you, Brooke. We'll share all your details, how people can find you on social. We'll share that all in the show notes. And thank you so much for today.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening. Now, here come the key takeaways for this episode. Number 1, define your version of success before you even start. Is it money? Is it flexibility that you want? Is it time with your kids or creative freedom? Get clear on what you want to build and what's important to you, and then build your business around that vision. Number 2, you don't have to be the tortured entrepreneur. Working more hours doesn't always mean making more money. And Brooke works less than 15 hours a week and has doubled her revenue year over year. Number 3, automate everything you can. That means email funnels, DM automation, batching tasks by day. Anything that removes decision-making from your plate frees you up to do the work you actually love. Number 4, hire for what you don't like or can't do well. Your first hire doesn't have to be a VA, like everyone says. Hire someone for the very thing that either is keeping you from showing up or drains your energy. Number 5, it's okay if you're not the primary breadwinner. Brooke is honest about having this luxury, and it shaped how she built her business. Of course, your circumstances might be different, but the principle of building around your values still applies. Number 6, marketing yourself requires thick skin. When selling something you created, low sales feel very personal. You have to believe in your work so deeply that the numbers don't shake your confidence and you can keep going. Number 7, passion matters more than what people say. Brooke struggled as a general food blogger, but she thrived when she niched down to maternal nutrition, which was something she genuinely cared about. Number 8, you can want both. You can want a career and want to be a present mom. It's totally okay, and you can make that work. You don't have to choose. You can design a life that includes both. You just have to be very strategic about it. Thank you so much for listening today. As always, I really appreciate you being here. If you loved this episode, or if you learned something that someone else would benefit from, please do share it. Please leave me a review. It really means so much to us, and it means that other women can find Mama What's Next so much more easily. Thank you so much. I love you being a listener, and I'm wishing you a beautiful week ahead. Thank you so much. I'll catch up with you soon. Bye.
Stop the battle within your soul. You know it's all in your head. Being sad doesn't make you smart. It seems your heart just needs a fresh start.